Okay, welcome back. I had to check something real quick. I wanted to make sure we had to do number three. Okay, so number three, like I said before I cut off the video, it says this painting shows that the Boston Tea Party. Write why you think some colonists disguised themselves and boarded the ships at night. Now, remember how angry they are about the tea tax, right? And they tried to boycott the tea. They tried not buying the tea, and that didn't work. So I think, in my opinion, you could form your own opinion and write it down here. Is that they were fed up? Basically, they had enough of the British and the king, more specifically, pushing himself and his rule on them, and doing things that, making laws and doing things that they thought were unfair. So I think they wanted to prove a point. Like I said, that's just my opinion. You could write something different if you want. Going back to number 4 on page 155, okay? Samuel Adams on the left and Thomas Hutchinson on the right. Number 4 says, write what Samuel Adams and Thomas Hutchinson might have said about the intolerable acts. So pretend you're them. What would they say? What would they speak about how would they speak about the intolerable acts? So give specific examples. So, for example, the colonists had to quarter or give food and shelter to British troops. What would Samuel Adams think about that? What would Thomas Hutchinson think about that? Remember, Thomas Hutchinson's a loyalist, so he would probably say that it's within the king's right to make a law. Even if the colonists aren't happy about it, it's too bad. They have to follow it. And Samuel Adams would probably say something like, it's not fair, and they're, we have no say in our government, and we shouldn't have to quarter troops or give food and shelter to them. Okay, so that's one example. And then you could use martial law. You could use the Navy ships blocking Boston Harbor until they paid the tax, all the money back for the tea that they spilled into the harbor. So you could write a lot of things there. I gave you one example, okay? Now, let's turn to page 156. Okay, so now the colonists start banding together, okay? Meaning Boston and New York and Virginia, all the colonies, they start to get together and to try to figure out how to solve this problem, okay? So it says colonial representatives meet. In September 1774, representatives from all the colonies, except Georgia, met to discuss the events in Boston. They called the meeting the First Continental Congress. The Congress agreed to stop all trade with Britain until the intolerable acts were repealed. The representatives also agreed to ask the king to help solve the problem of the taxes. The Congress hoped to settle the conflict peacefully, but they knew they might have to fight. Each colony agreed to train a militia or volunteer army. That means you just call on people and they just fight. They join the army on their own free will, okay? They're not conscripted, meaning they're not forced to serve in the army. Some militias called themselves Minutemen because they needed to be ready to fight at a minute's notice. So they became known as Minutemen because they had to be ready to fight, at a minute's notice. Okay. So then we have Patrick Henry. He was a patriot, and he speaks out. Okay, and the colonists disagreed from colony to colony whether they should resolve things peacefully or go to war, and people individually disagreed how to handle the situation. So this is Patrick Henry, okay? In March 1775, Patrick Henry gave a speech at a church in Virginia. His goal was to convince people to prepare for war with Britain. He proposed that Virginia form a volunteer army. He said the war is inevitable. That means it's going to happen one way or another. And let it come. He actually wanted it to come. Gentlemen may cry peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. Then he spoke the words of the he's most famous for. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. That is a very famous quote. So he would rather die than in a free man than, still follow the king's rules. He hated it that much and was that much against the way the king was ruling them. Okay, so that leads us to number 5. Write what you think Patrick Henry meant when he said, give me liberty or give me death. So what he meant was he would rather be free and die than live under the king's rule. Okay? And that's going to be it for today. Enjoy the Liberty Kids, and we'll pick up social studies next week. Okay.